Happy Thanksgiving English 482, it's Cass and welcome to my poetry presentation. Now it doesn't take happy Albert Einstein riding a bike smiling to tell me that all y'all want to get back to your turkey and your TVs and your elastic waistband pants, so I'm going to make this video as quick and concise as possible. But there are 3 parts to this video. Part 1, I am going to present and introduce and discuss briefly the piece of work that inspired the poem that I'm going to be presenting later on in part 2, which is going to be the presentation of the poem that I created from what I introduced in step 1. And I promise this is all going to make more sense in like 4 minutes. Bear with me. And that brings us to part 3, where I will discuss ways that you can implement this style of teaching and learning for your future students and maybe even incorporate this really awesome poem. So let's get started. Sometimes the world makes me sad. Like really sad. Life can be challenging. It's stressful. I am anxious, I get nervous, I plan my future and it's scary and things look grimmer some days more than others. There's things happening in the world that are beyond my control. 2 weeks ago in Paris, we have ISIS, we have Syria, we have refugees, we have global warming, and the list is numerous, and I don't want to go into this because this is a really weird part of my video, but I promise it's going to cheer up in 2 seconds. A lot of me just feeling down with the world starts to build up over time, and I think of it as like mental plaque. And there's various things I do: breathing exercise, meditation, riding my bike, going for a crazy hike, whatever. But there's also this video that I found a few years ago, and it is a quick trip to just feeling rejuvenated with the world. And it was originally a recording of a podcast. The podcast was with astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, if you don't know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is, that's okay, but he is the most genius person living today, in my personal opinion. He is the Carl Sagan of our generation. He knows everything. He would give Happy Hour a run for his money. Let's just say that. So flash forward, he was on a podcast, and since he knows pretty much everything there is to know in the entire universe, the person on the podcast asked him, what is the most astounding fact? And the answer he gave was so eloquent and poetic and amazing on its own. But then someone took it, added some music and some cool imagery to it, which you're going to see in a few seconds, and remixed it into something new. And I watch this video as a mental reset. It helps me to just get through the day and to feel connected when I feel isolated. So enjoy.
What is the most astounding fact you can share with us about the universe?
The most astounding fact
The most astounding fact
is the knowledge that the atoms that comprise life on Earth, the atoms that make up the human body, are traceable to the crucibles that cooked light elements into heavy elements in their core under extreme temperatures and pressures. These stars, the high-mass ones among them, went unstable in their later years. They collapsed and then exploded, scattering their enriched guts across the galaxy. Guts made of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and all the fundamental ingredients of life itself. These ingredients become part of gas clouds that condense, collapse, form the next generation of solar systems, stars with orbiting planets. And those planets now have the ingredients for life itself. So that when I look up at the night sky, and I know that, yes, we are part of this universe, we are in this universe, but perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. When I reflect on that fact, I look up. Many people feel small because they're small and the universe is big, but I feel big. because my atoms came from those stars. There's a level of connectivity. That's really what you want in life. You want to feel connected. You want to feel relevant. You want to feel like you're a participant in the goings-on of activities and events around you. That's precisely what we are, just by being alive.
I know, right? Don't you just feel like life? Now, can I first just say that choosing a poem for this presentation was pretty much impossible without any context except that it had to be accessible to a YA audience. To me, that was like choosing my favorite cat. Can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. So that's how I felt about this poetry presentation. So instead of having to choose from the endless surplus of poetry that I love, that I've accumulated, that I read and think about on a daily basis, I decided that I'm just gonna make my own. And I didn't want to read you anything because a lot of my poetry has a lot to do with like sadness and boys and being sad about boys. I feel like that's just a buzzkill for Thanksgiving break. So since I had such a hard time choosing a poem, I decided to take this speech. I took what I felt was just the heart and put it into free verse stanza form, only the guts, the most important girth of it that just every time makes me. So that brings us to part 2 of this poetry presentation, which is going to be me reading a poem that I created from the transcript of that amazing podcast answer. So if you want to follow along while I'm reading, you can click the link below. It'll take you to the link on my blog, for my blog where I have this posted. I'm going to go ahead and read now. So, the universe is in us. So that when I look up at the night sky and I know that yes, we are part of this universe, we are in this universe, but perhaps more important than both those facts is that the universe is in us. I look up. Many people feel small because they're small and the universe is big. But I feel big because my atoms came from those stars. There's a level of connectivity. That's really what you want in life. You want to feel connected. You want to feel relevant. You want to feel like you're a participant in the goings-on of activities and events around you. That's precisely what we are, just by being alive. And the universe is in us. Moving on to part 3. Now, before we move into the full official part 3, I have a quick disclaimer, and that is that the concept of taking a speech and taking the transcript of it and putting it into stanzas and kind of making it this new form of media is not an original idea. It comes from a whole slew of ideas called participatory or remix culture. It is a fascinating, incredible utility to have as a future teacher. I also have an amazing book. I will link these down below. Below my blog is more of like a supplementary link section. But I think that this way of restructuring poetry, by the way, my literary device is form and structure, because you can look at a paragraph, but it makes it so much more meaningful. And I picked apart and I picked out the most meaningful, girthy, beautiful, eloquent part of Neil deGrasse Tyson's speech. And I broke it out into these stanzas that I feel really help you to absorb and fully grasp what he's saying. And it even creates its own little beat and rhythm. That was really cool too. But thinking of ways that you can use this in your classroom is really fun and really cool. You could take a simple speech and teach students about structure and form by having them look at the transcript and simply doing exactly what I did. It's easy and it's fun and it engages students. And what it does more than anything is that it teaches them that there's a lot of media out there, and it's really, really hard to come up with new ideas and new concepts. Pretty much everything has already been thought and done, but it's really cool to take something that already exists and remix it and make it something brand new. I hope that Neil deGrasse Tyson video blew your mind and made you feel connected and good about yourself and about the world. And I hope that this poetry presentation has been meaningful and created a deeper connection in your life. And I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and I look forward to your comments. We're in a relatively short period of time, so relatively happy. This is Grace, and she wants